Hey everyone, welcome to the Get It Done podcast. I'm Jimi Ryan, and today I'm very honored. I'm blessed to have Yana Stockman. She is a life coach. She knows I feel like 30 languages. Correct me if I'm wrong. She
That was
promotes
before, yeah, with
How
with the
many?
Spanish. That would be four.
It would be four. I thought it was like 30. Well, anyway, you could correct me on this. You promote the simple life and like less is more type of mentality. And you have your own podcast, the Guidance to Personal Success, GPS, Guidance to Personal Success. Yana, welcome to the Get It Done podcast.
Oh, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for having me. It's truly awesome. And to be honest, this is going to be my first interview on the podcast. So I would forever remember this appearance. So thank you.
Well, I'm honored to have you on because I know a little bit about your story and it's just so deep. And so there's so many ways that we can go. And, as I've been doing these, I've been finding that it's an adventure kind of digging deep into people and, figuring out what their story is. And I just know that there's so many ways that we could go with this. So I want to get right into it. Was there anything I missed about accolades? I know life coach, how many languages? I'm sorry.
That would be fine. So I'm a transition life coach and I coach people internationally because I'm a first generation entrepreneur. So I just help people navigate through challenges and changes in time. And several years ago, I just faced with opportunity to pack my life in one 25-pound suitcase and transition from one continent into another. So everyone is transitioning through journey, and everyone's journey is different, but my started with rediscovering my identity. So that's why I coach entrepreneurs, professionals, and creatives to gain clarity, most important, develop strategies and an action plan while they navigating through life changes and transition, while they make an impact in the world and reach that next level of success, whatever that means for them, whatever that level of success mean.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's kind of like, getting it done, whatever that may be, is how I set up the intro in this. And yeah, clarity, strategy, and then most importantly, have an action plan. I wanted to ask, define transition coach. Like, what are you transitioning from? Is it transitioning into clarity, strategy, and an action plan, or is it more of just transitioning from another country, or what are you transitioning into?
Sure. So transition, besides changing things over and reconstructing life, could be a link, a movement, development, or evolution from one form, stage in life, or style to another. So something that people experiencing while they're going through whatever that means for them, starting the new job, leaving the new job, starting the new business, walking away from the business, transition. Something is very internal, unlike change, something external that outside of our control. Change happened very quickly. And for example, losing a job, moving to a new location, transition happening afterwards, and it's usually internal. This is what happens in people's mind as they go through change, like adapting to that new role, not having a job, or learning how to live on their own by leaving the relationship. And that's pretty much what's the difference between change versus transition. So change we cannot really control. This is happening, like this current new normal, quote unquote. We did not plan on that. We didn't know this is going to happen. And now we have opportunity to deal with that. So that's transition. How are we going to overcome that? What's the result? What's the story we're going to tell ourselves? And that's the fun journey to be in, that transition, because it's a roller coaster of emotions and roller coaster of feelings and a lot of mindset blocks that could come through during that time. And that's where I'm at
That's beautiful. I know.
Yeah.
So I was writing this down. I really love that. It's an interesting perspective to
Uh-huh.
look at it in the way that you just described. Change is going to happen. Change is going to happen. You have no
Yeah.
control over that, but you do have control of the transition. And I really love that because it really comes down to a personal choice where
Absolutely.
you're not controlling the change. And I love now. It makes more sense to me what transition coaching is that look, you're going through a major life event.
Mhm.
I personally, I just had a daughter, and
Mhm.
I have a son who's 3. He's transitioning, and I'm his father, so I have to be his coach with it, and I'm transitioning too. So it's like it's a big change. Lots of things are moving.
Yeah, it's usually start with that question. This has happened, whatever it has happened for you. Now what? And even if it's adapting to your new role, you cannot control what just happened to you to your life, this miracle.
Right.
But we never had that before, so it's like, now what do I do with my current mindset, with my current reality? And that's the transition started. Like, do I'm learning more skills? Am I opening for new opportunities? Do I need help? Do I need resources? In your case, you probably need both, and
Right.
luckily for you, you have beautiful partner to get you that. But imagine people don't have that, and as a result they feel stuck. Like, here I'm arrived, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do, I never done it before. And let's start with, now what?
Yeah. I mean, God bless my wife, Jasmine Ryan. She's all of my organization. She always keeps it together. I'm the emotional one in our relationship, but um,
Love the
but yeah,
combination.
we're blessed, and that's the way that you can look at it. And I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that support. And that's something that I think is just a great need, to have somebody coach you through that. And really, you're just more so just, I mean, is it just encouragement, really, just to get through it? Or is it really just really making the paradigm shift happen?
It's a shift because you have to live with that. In transition, it's not just something temporary, it goes into depth of the reason why it's deep, because it's become your life now, and the living life is to getting used to particular lifestyle. What's the lifestyle? It's some sort of action steps, daily routine, a habit. So what's the habit? What's behind the habit is the thinking. How do I do that? What do I do? How am I gonna wake up in this new reality? And after the behind the thinking, it's always the mindset. And mindset just consists out of beliefs, limiting beliefs, obstacles, some sort of blueprints that we acquired when we growing up, or some blueprints that we didn't really wanting to have. It just happened to us unconsciously. That's how we were raised. That's how we believe. And it's back to who we are. And every transition, when it starts with, now what? Next question will be, what should I do? And I help people to ask, well, what do you want to do? And that's where coaching journey began.
That's cool. I mean, I'm sure it's just so helpful to have to bounce it off of somebody, especially somebody that
Mhm.
does that every single day.
Yeah.
What now? I love it. And I was just reflecting as you were talking about limiting beliefs. And a lot of times you grow up with this type of, you're a victim to the situation in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
You grow up, you're raised how you're raised. And look, parents are doing the best they can. You can never really blame the parents, and you can, but
Mhm.
ultimately people don't try to be bad parents. And you can either be a victim to it, or you can, you know, I guess, break the limiting beliefs. How do you,
Yeah.
as a
And
coach, do that?
the only way, I just want to piggyback on that comment, the only successful way to manage the life it's to get clear and to have a clear focus, laser focus on what's the most important for you right now at this moment. What is it? What is the result here? What do you can do right now? And how do you know it can be done and accomplished? And the answer is pretty much go back to what I want and who I am, what's my values. Shifting beliefs definitely required techniques and internal work and self-awareness. So
Yeah.
behind all of this is psychology, and that's my background. That's how I even pivot into this role as a life coach. And everything which is changing mindset could start with the conversation, the Gestalt technique therapy, NLP, hypnosis, just name it, journaling, meditation, and so many tools out there. The key is here, there is a client on one end, there is right in the middle would be the technique, the resource, the tool, and then who's conducting it, because it's important. It's like a surgery, brain surgery. It's hard for the surgeon to do the surgery on his own brain. And just like a therapist or psychologist, we will find the way how to escape and walk away from something that blocking us or scaring us. So, and the coach is someone who is not fully I'm always bring this as an example. Lots of people say, well, what's the difference between if I'm going to talk to my friend, right? And coach is not fully invested in, except investing in a way of like you reaching your result or like wanting you succeed or uncover your potential.
Well, they don't care. They don't care how it feels because they don't have to feel it. They don't
like exactly. Coaches are looking for more from the perspective of they deeply care, because that's the only way they can reach together, walk all the way to the success, the outcome. But they're not buying the story. They're not buying the BS stories. And
right.
That's the beauty. That's where you vulnerable and honest, and coach can be constructive with you and productive because he's there for you. He'll get you back. Right. There is no sugarcoating because it's not the enabling situation and say, oh yeah, I feel you. I got it. I feel the same way.
Not to mention
that conversation not going to go anywhere.
Well, right. And not to mention, I wrote down 3 things that you said that just are like, you say it in a way that's just funny, and not funny, but like it's just impactful, is you have to have a laser focus. It's about results right now. What are you doing? Yeah. And you as a coach, you're literally getting paid to produce results. So you kind of have to crack the whip on the self-awareness and the shifting beliefs. Okay, this is what a great intro. And I want to go back to really why you are this person and why this is such an important thing to you to be doing this. And I mean, you could be a million things, but you are a transitional life coach. And I think it goes back to just kind of like what we were talking about growing up and how were you raised. So I want to go all the way back. Where were you born, Yana?
So I was born in a lovely country called Ukraine, East Europe. It's approximately 6,000 miles away from where we are at right now. Whatever you're listening, whatever your audience from right now, right across the ocean.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, and slightly back, it would be me. Why did I start this journey on coaching? It was my background. I got my master's degree in counseling psychology, and I was pursuing counseling career. And that was just something that I was fascinated, and later I pivoted back because I find much more beneficial tools to turn into the much more powerful results. Don't get me wrong, there is need and there must be a therapy in the world, and there is so many issues, problems, results need to be only solved with therapy tools, but there is a next level. And I think combo of those two is just the secret sauce for success, coaching and therapy.
Absolutely.
But all the way back. So
it kind of is the same thing if you think about it. I mean,
sort of, yeah.
Well, I guess what would be different? I mean, it's
the direction you're going with therapy. You're going to the past. With the coaching, you're going into the future.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Coaching would ask you a question like, why? Why did it happen to you? Why?
Yeah.
What was there when you were 5? Coaching is more about like, what do you want? and how, and when are we starting doing that?
Yeah. What did you learn from it, and what do you
Yeah,
want your results to be?
yeah.
Okay, that's beautiful. So you're born in Ukraine, 6,000 miles away.
Hmm.
And what I don't actually know this. What is the language that you speak in Ukraine?
Yeah, so it is Ukrainian, beautiful language, one of the musical languages, somewhere in the scale, almost close to Italian. But I grew up in East Ukraine, which is very close to Russian border, and I was bilingual, so I was study Russian and I was speaking Russian since I remember myself.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you born in a house that both languages were spoken,
Yeah.
and was that something where, like, in East Ukraine you have to know both because otherwise you wouldn't be able to communicate, type of a thing?
I would say they similar in the forms of Slavic language group has similar alphabet, and they have same amount of letters, and the similar history of languages. And when I growing up speaking Ukrainian, it was uh, just very natural to speak Russian. And when I would go and visit my grandma up north of Ukraine, which is on the border of Poland and Belarus, I would learn I would hear words in Belarus and Poland language. So there were some dialects that I would recognize. And if I would travel to West Ukraine, where the ski resorts, mountains, and beautiful, um, um, so some sort of a touristy attraction, similar to Colorado, by the way, then because Ukraine is bordered with Hungary and Moldova, and I would hear some dialects and I would recognize some words as well. So it was very natural to growing up being multicultural and have some relatives and have Hebrew background. So it was
It's
some
so
sort of
interesting that it's
norm.
common, like, over there. And I mean, it's not like it's not that it's a surprise that it's common because there's just so many countries so close together. But
Yeah,
it's interesting to think that that is just the norm. And whereas in America, I mean, maybe you know English, but maybe you know Spanish too. But most
yeah,
people just generally are going to know English. If you're bilingual, great. But
yeah.
but you kind of almost do need it. And if you grow up with it, do you think it's easier to just know other languages?
It's easy to communicate. The borders are very close, and the traveling is accessible, so it become um, easy to talk with native speakers and learn that way faster.
Okay. Cool. So you're born in Ukraine,
Hmm.
Eastern Ukraine.
Hmm.
And what was growing up like? I have to, I guess, ask too. Like, Ukraine was in the news with like a big Russian type of, like, war type stuff. Is that more recent history than back
It
when?
is, yeah. It's 2013, and that was unfortunate time. And actually, that time when um, there was a period when I was coming back to US because I've been living in the East Coast for a while, so it was coming back and forth. So I remember that time vividly. But I actually was born when it was still USSR. Speaking of transitions, right, and constant adaptation,
Wow.
it was part of USSR at that time, and I still remember, and I was raised based on that mentality. My parents were um, they were proud of that time. They have very beautiful memories of that time. And then 90s, that was a completely different lifestyle when the country became independent again, and it was new cultural shock for Eastern world to have this Western world chime in with all the cultural shock. And that's what I start that was my growing up period, when I was exposed to Western culture and started learning and watch movies and introduced to the language, and um, start diving into the musicians and hearing, I don't know, some movies and watching those traditional cartoons. So that was next transition for me to be introduced for that world.
Was that how you learned English? Was watching just like American movies?
Pretty much, but
Okay.
there was no practice of it because no one speaks English. So you kind of like just have basics. And in fact, we were more influenced by British English and not American English. In school, we would be learning London is the capital of Great Britain, and you would be learning that style of like grammatical conjunctions, and you would be uh, hearing the more British accents than American.
I mean, it makes sense. It has to make sense. I mean, I mean, just like you said, it's 5,000-6,000 miles away. I mean, it's got to be different. I
Yeah,
mean, people have a
it
different
is.
accent in New York and in New Jersey than in Wisconsin,
Yeah,
or in Duluth, Minnesota.
yeah,
So okay, so that's it's interesting to me that this is a proud time to be in USSR, that's like
yeah.
a thing of pride. I guess I would have to imagine it would be, because Americans are kind of the same way with we're proud about American flags and that type of thing.
Hmm.
So at what point was there a transition to independence? And I guess, what do you remember the most about that time? What was most, I guess, shocking to you?
I don't remember that much of a big of a difference. I just would hear the stories from my parents about how great it was, how they were in some sort of a camaraderie as the groups, and how they were rebuilding the country. And at that time, it was like 15 countries united together. So it was some sort of a nationalism, and there was a lot of conformism as well. There was not too much individuality, and that's not what I was raised in. And I was raised more like individualist. It's like you were specifically concentrated on what you can offer to society, and philosophy like that. However, as I mentioned, all of these transitions happening over and over and over. So you imagine it's impacting not only culture, like economy, everything. So yeah, obviously it's reflected in our lifestyle. So I remember growing up with not much, which is opening later my eyes for way more. So I wasn't poor. I just didn't know any better. I
Right.
thought that I truly have enough. I would remember having a pair of shoes that I was wearing after my brother, and we had enough on our New Year's Eve Christmas table, because I remember growing up, it was the only time when my parents would buy fresh fruits, and specifically oranges and tangerines. And that smell would always associate it with that time, because in the winter it would be hard to have fresh fruits. And those were the best memories, to be honest. I would receive gifts and I always will be grateful for Christmas. And I just growing up, just oblivious that could be worse than that, even though I didn't realize that was the minimum month to month living, when the dad was the breadwinner and mom was working hard as well. And we just were happy. We were just managing. Every time we'll go to the supermarket and buy something new for school, it was just the best time. I felt just felt
Yeah.
spoiled, kind of,
Well,
which is,
so I mean, you're appreciating things like fresh fruit and oranges and the smell of them.
yeah,
That's just
yeah,
really, it's neat to hear that, because you remembered that. That was the joy. You didn't care
yeah,
about a Christmas present or whatever it was.
yeah.
You mentioned it was more of a conformity type of a culture,
Hmm.
whereas you preferred more of the individualistic. Is that more of like, I guess, a comment towards a communist,
Yeah,
socialistic
totally. You're on point with that. Yeah,
so,
absolutely. I did not grow up like that. However, in school, we would still have this echoey educational system when you are kind of responsible your behavior, you represent the school, you represent a district, and there was this pressure on you that you remember you have an army of students behind you, so you better deliver. And so there was not, like, if you were unique in some sort of way, then it was weird. And it was like, what does that mean? And I remember having that memories when I think it was a Christmas Eve at the kindergarten, when we were dressed up in the costumes and celebrating, waiting for Santa, which is in our culture is Grandpa Frost. He was wearing slightly different costume, and he has a granddaughter who is making helping him with gifts.
What does he wear?
He's wearing long fur coat, and usually it's like red or gold, and he's wearing hat and long beard, and has a big, of course, the big bag of gifts. But he doesn't have
Santa. That's Santa.
It's right? Like Saint Nick. Well, your Santa. I love how
I know. My Santa.
Your Santa is wearing pants and like a coats on top, like short coat. Ours and like wear long, like a feet, like all the way floor length coat. His look like I would say like a Saint Nick's.
Okay. Yeah. It's just funny to me just listening to it, because it's like
and we like real deal. We don't have elves, imaginary elves, or like some weird creatures. We have like, he has a granddaughter who is helping him to pack those gifts and deliver, not in the air by the transportation through the snow, through the woods, like not flying.
Flying reindeer.
Well, no, it was horses, not reindeers. So it was, pretty real.
Wait, are the horses flying?
No, they don't. Maybe on the Hallmark cards, they imaginary flying, but in all cartoons, they were just like, he's going through the woods and forests and delivering those gifts. And
I don't know, Yana, flying reindeer sounds cooler than just horses.
I know, that's why the touch of reality needed. And when we grew up, we were like real deal kids. We need to know to the bottom, like why they fly. What's the story behind it? So there was like a lot of engineering. So it's a hard childhood.
So I took you on a tangent, but it's just kind of funny this just talking about the difference in culture. What do you remember most about this Saint Nick Santa like guy?
Yes, what I remember most from the kindergarten story.
Well, yeah, exactly. I guess I kind of stopped you.
So, yeah, no. You on point. You were curious about our Grandpa Frost.
I want to hear about. I know, it's just great. So continue.
So speaking of conformism and Santa, so I remember when so I was in the kindergarten, while all the kids would be dressed up like squirrels or snowflakes or wolves or foxes. Well, I was an alien. So my mom would help me to make this costume. We would cut out the stars out of baking foil and attach them to my red turtleneck. Don't ask me why the aliens would wear red turtlenecks. It was just in my image. Then we would cut two metal wires and make them like antennas, and they would be dingling on my head. Trust me, it was so dorky. But
I'm imagining it.
And I have a picture of it. I'm so proud of it.
That's awesome.
But I would feel the coolest of all. I would be like just a queen walking with those stars, and everyone would be in those boring, predictable costumes. And speaking of the individualism, because I was growing up, the big fascination of mine was space and universe and every possible life out there. And it would be funny that story about being an alien become a reality. I end up actually being an alien, because when you move to United States, you get assigned eight number in 9 digits. It's called alien number. So you become an alien for next several years until you become a resident and a citizen. So yeah, that was my example of the individualism, because it was weird. Like, what do you mean you different than the rest? And
at a young age, you started it. You're already on a, you don't want that type of conformity in your life. You want to do your own thing and be more so responsible for your results, as opposed to, being held back by a group. that doesn't really want the same results that you do.
Yeah, and it was just a combination of like me start performing on stage, and my parents were creatives, and they were activists in forms of they would be organizing some creative events, and they would be dancing when they were younger. So I think that's impacted me and reflected me, their backgrounds, the way how they raised me.
So when did conflict happen where you had to move? When was I'm sure something had to have happened. Was it a long build up to where you guys moved, or when did you guys actually leave?
I did not move anywhere. My life was supposed to be so predefined. You graduate, you go to school, you graduate, you go to college, you get the degree, you come back to your hometown and probably work at a factory or a local school. And the life is predefined. Like you work for next on that factory for next 30, 40 years, and then you hopefully save for retirement, and then you're retired and your life is set. So that's like the shortcut. um I just couldn't follow that. Like I couldn't imagine to follow that path. It was just like not me, watching my parents still working at the same college that they were 25, and now they in like mid 60s. So I would just watching this over and over and over. Like there was a movie that the movie in America about, what's it, Groundhog, when you the day repeats itself.
Oh, I think it is. It's Groundhog Day.
Okay, perfect.
I'm the
That's
worst at movie knowledge, though. Sorry if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, the day keeps on repeating itself. Exactly.
yeah. And that was pretty much the life of majority of middle class families. And I
It sounds
just saw
terrible. It sounds like torture. It sounds. I mean,
it,
it also
it's
sounds nice in a weird way, but it also sounds absolutely terrible.
and a lot of people live like that, and that's stability they called, and it's certainty they called, and it's survivorship. So, and I saw growing up that the stabilities never have this. It's some sort of a constantly I would hear growing up is a rainy day. There's never enough because there's a rainy day. So every day would be a cloudy day because it's a rainy day, and we need to save because what if tomorrow rainy day? So that cloud would be covering every day, and I just couldn't believe um, how could you become so creative in this and happy and fulfilled and like really enjoying, because that just didn't line up with the map of what I was watching, like the magazines or some National Geographic or some TV shows. Like, what do you mean there's different countries? What do you mean people do the bungee jumping? What do you mean they swim with dolphins and whales? Like, wait, people can have kids can play in their own rooms and they don't have to live in the one apartment. Like, and they actually go see the ocean versus read about it. Like, there must be life beyond. And I would come and ask my dad, like, Dad, what's the deal? Why can't we have a bigger apartment? And like, why can't we go on those trips and really actually traveling? And I would never forget his reply. He would say, Yana, anything could be taken away from you, like home, money, expensive accessories. And what you will always have is this freedom to express yourself. And that would be enough of what you already have. And yes, remembering looking at those magazines and flipping pages of countries that I didn't know the names of, I would only learn about them from geography classes. And the idea of seeing those places one day was just some sort of not even a dream. It was something unattainable because almost unreal. I just wouldn't allow myself to dream because that just was not part of reality I grew up. The ticket on the plane was something that family no way could afford. And being told those stories, actually, it was funny because I would be hearing the stories by my parents that they would travel before we were born, and they would see the places, even bring me on the plane when I was 2 months old. So, but my belief was still engraved in me, affordability of life. So I'm not allowed to experience that. And definitely that would created some sort of a being hungry for that, to discover that one day, wanting to travel and see the world and explore what's there. There must be a life beyond my hometown.
Well, and it must have felt, in addition to that, it must have felt weird because you already are kind of an alien in a sense, and you're kind of aimed in that direction. So you're
Yeah.
kind of feeling probably uncomfortable at the point anyway. I have to ask, a ticket, when you say like the cost of that, is a
Yeah.
ticket like a ticket to like America, or is it like a ticket to like just to leave somewhere and go on a vacation
I
and just,
think anywhere to fly, it was unbearable. That was like above monthly income. So how could you afford something when you just make it month to month? Train was
why is that though? I mean, but they're going to work every single day in the factory. I mean, or whatever every single day is. I mean, whatever work day is and work
yeah.
week. So there's literally, there's just, you work in the factory, you get X amount, and is that like everybody, and everybody gets that, and that's the stability, and that's the,
That's
I
the
guess.
minimum wage. You survive to the minimum wage. So when you have family, there is no room for you to save. There is no extra. So you pretty much you uh, you pay for your time. You exchange. Here's my time. Here's the if you watch that the movie called In Time with Justin Timberlake, when you just exchange your time and they just pay you for your time, and you that there is no extra. And yeah, between my parents, we were able to save up every year, of course, to go to on a train to go see my grandma up north or go to see other cities and towns, but nothing outside of country. And that was just a lot to offer. It was like must be something tangible to see, not for leisure, not just because um,
Right.
I want to go see the Egypt or Turkey or
Right.
something like that. No.
Yeah, you need, yeah, if we're leaving, it would better be to see grandma, or family members or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
um In Time by JT, love it. I've never seen it, but I want to watch it now. um Moving forward, I guess it seemed like, yeah, you were poor but you didn't know it. You were satisfied with things. At what point did
Mhm.
that change?
It would start with college when I would start expanding, exploring my directions. And during all this time, I would be professionally performing. So that would inquire for us to travel and to go see other places, competing in different cities and states. So we would, I would see there is so much more, and there's people and connections and colleges and schools and places, and that will give me this hint of flavor that I could explore that. I have that belief that I could be somewhere else. And definitely the college set up the new bar. People outside of my hometown, they would be sharing stuff with me, and it would require me to go to another city. So I have to leave my hometown to study and pursuing my psychology degree.
Was I know that I'm blessed to have known you before
Mhm.
this interview, and I know a couple bits of your story. And
Mhm.
I know you mentioned already earlier on that you put everything in a 20-pound suitcase.
Yeah,
Was that
that's exactly happened. Like during the college years,
that
I
was during the college years? I thought there was a story of you being like I don't know, an 8-year-old girl and putting all of your belongings into like one little thing, but
mm,
I may be remembering it totally
yeah.
wrong.
No, that was just at college years when I'm started having all this freedom. There is no attachment. There is no family yet on my own, and I would be able to explore and discover. And that become you work during the college, so you make your own income and you planning your own, and you know what's the priority, where you want to spend on. Definitely not on books or other stuff. You want to have
Right,
fun. You want to
right.
enjoy. Then I would
Explore.
start saving and working hard to start traveling everywhere I can go, exchanging and ask friends if they in that country if I can stay, and that would be pretty much start of my this new wave of literally crushing 30 countries. Every time I would come back and never even unpack my suitcase, of going to every single possible continent and every single country. And at that time during college, I would be curious about human psychology in different places. So I would be reading like different religious books to understand the premises and how these people are different, what's defined their success, why people in India on the street, they just as happy as my friends who are owning plants and who are running businesses, and they are not. Like, why I'm in the middle, like, why am I seeing this different retrospects of life? And right before I was start exploring yet another country called America, that was the time when I have to pack my suitcase. And it was a couple trips that I made, and they never been my like end goal. It was just something, another place to discover. But I do remember packing my, first of all, I do remember leaving my country that day. I would remember finding myself in that another yet transition where old is gone, like, but the new was not really fully clear for me and define what I want to do next. And I knew I overgrew and I didn't feel like belong to my hometown. I didn't see I want to pursue the career and start looking for a job there. So I would walk through the customs control at the airport, holding my passport, waving my mom, and holding my tears with one-way ticket to America, feeling so emotional and so confused and numb. And it should feels like exciting chapter of my life because I'm going to the new place, like nothing holding me here, but it just wasn't. I was so heartbroken, Jimmy. I was afraid and I didn't know what's next, and I'm alone. And no matter how sincere my smile was when the immigration officer asked me this cheery question of one-way ticket, and I would reply, yep. And I was just like biting my lip and squeezing my ticket harder just to pass it over so I can just like go find my seat. So I thought, it's funny that I thought at that moment that I was just sitting and looking outside of that window at the airplane. First time ever. I usually grew up having a plan. I grew up independent because independency comes with harsh lessons. Like, you want something, you go get it. Or if you just enjoy living that lifestyle, so make it happen.
Yeah, go get it right now. Laser focus. I mean, that's you
Yeah,
all day.
pretty much.
Just,
And I grew up to like, Yana, you better have a plan. Like, nobody gonna come serve on a silver platter. Like, we didn't have a silver platter.
And plus, you have a one-way ticket. I mean, it's kind of like, well, good luck. I hope you make it.
Yeah, no, it was just, I was impressed and my parents didn't let me go. I mean, if I would be parents, I would put twice. They were just like getting used to my travels. They were like, oh, okay, another one. She will be back in a few months. It was a program that I applied to just go to East Coast and work for a while to get to know the culture.
So do you think that it was when you said, hey, one-way ticket, the immigration officer, hey, one-way ticket? Like, I'm sure they asked it in a way where it's like, affirming, are you sure? And then you said, yep.
I didn't have a choice. I didn't know what to expect. I knew I'm coming back in 4 months because that's what my time period on my visa. But I have to say that only because what else can I have a better idea? In my head, I know there's no way back, but there was nothing in the front of me yet set in stone. So I always tried to have a plan. And I remember sitting and looking outside of that window in the airplane, first time ever. Like, I literally had no plan. I had this job offer to go to work in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. And I just was so confused, lack of clarity to see those seeds. What could those new beginnings be for me, new thinking? And it should feel like another trip, but it didn't, because lack of clarity or leaving behind something very familiar, like home, language, culture, and start learning how to move forward without it, like with just like basic amount of English. So those were the most like foggy, uncertain next 10 hours in the air, right in the middle of the ocean.
I was going to say, like, what's that like? So, but you said that you've flown when you were like 2 months old. Was this the first time since then being in a plane?
No, I would like during the college, I
And
would
you would
travel.
fly in college too, but this was like, hey, I'm going on a huge, long,
It was a long
no
trip. Yeah,
plane.
it was like further than I would fly from Ukraine to Thailand or from Ukraine to Shanghai or Ukraine to, let's see, what else would I go for that
Okay,
long?
cool. Like,
India.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty epic too to go to China. I mean, that's got to be an amazing experience.
But it would be something like a touristic experience. This is not going to be my.
So yeah, like right, more of an adventure where there's an end, and it's quick,
Exactly.
Whereas this is like, I better figure it out.
Yeah.
When, what was? Do you think it was this feeling? I feel like maybe it's just fear. Maybe it's just. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that it could be, but I feel as though this exact moment, this exact feeling, is really
Mhm.
intense to you. It's something that it changed you,
Mhm.
and I'm sure it's why you do what you do. This exact feeling. Do
Yeah.
you think that now that you've helped so many people go through this exact type of a thing,
Mhm.
I guess, do you thrive off of this feeling now? Do you think if you were to go back in time and experience the same thing again, not knowing what you're knowing, but knowing the knowledge that you have now of how to handle it, and I guess self-psychologize and analyze yourself and be self-aware, do you think you'd actually feed off of it and it would feel more like an adventure? Or do you think that no, it would still be just as equally as scary?
I would never trade that experience when you kind of in the middle of nowhere, like I don't know how many feet away from the ground, and you do not belong to anything. Like some people think, yay, freedom, like I'm off the hook from my parents' hometown and like here I am going to explore something. I feel like it's just that feeling of not belonging to anything. Like you don't know, you're going into this unknown country. And I would say, in the middle of all the transition cases that I work with clients, it's that word clarity. When you don't have clarity, when you're driving in a snowstorm or you are in the rain, it's when you windshield wipers doesn't even remove that and you're still in the fog, you have no clue, like am I gonna go, am I gonna crash in the next car, am I, you just like full of fear of like you literally try to mobilize and protect yourself, survive. And when people in this mode, there is a lot of belief shifts could happen for them, or it could completely paralyze them and make them stuck in belief forever. This is not the case. Like I should never go there, that was just dumb, what am I thinking? And that would be the like closed door for opportunities. So I would feel when you experience that and like you just shit's careless, but you do it anyway because that's how you break through. And that's what becomes your story. That's why you're questioning your abilities. That's why your brain like, wait a minute, that was new, what just happened, what did you just do, what did you do? And that's become your new norm to explore, like wait, I did it, I jump across, I over jump something that I didn't know I'm capable of. So now you have this new cool reality when you're curious and like, what is that all about, let me explore. And when the curiosity kicked in, then there is no fear because you adapt, you tolerate, you get to know people, and then you ask for help and you manage to navigate it. But that leap to do that, that curve, it's that most challenging transition stage in the transition model, when you leave something familiar behind and then yet you don't know what's ahead of you. That's at that moment when you're losing your identity. You don't know who you are, you don't know what the heck you're doing and who is behind you, and when there's nobody and you on your own, that's the feeling that I'm like, I have no clue. And you just become in this state mode. And that's where it's important to tap in on that potential and like, no, wait a minute, where do I find the clarity, what do I know, what do I have? So when that hit me on the plane, I would find most inspiring, most beautiful, when even through your tears things might look blurry outside, it is that feeling when you're clear about something or you believe, you positive, that even without even opening your eyes, it's that new understanding of what could you possibly be, possibly be for you. how fortunate you are and grateful where you are right now. What are you doing? That's setting up that frame for yourself, remaining hungry, which is I was, and that fresh air for me of new hope and energy and opportunities. This is what it's become, just that exhilaration feeling of like, I can do anything. I so excited for my new beginning, new journey, and there is a reason why I'm here. So the
I love
clarity, that was the big piece.
that's that's fire, Yana. I love everything you just said. You lose your identity during this time of limbo. It's like you're unsure. I wrote that down. That's such a cool quote.
And I lost it like 4 times during being in America, because body, like, it sound maybe harsh, but the reality is you not established. Your degree might be questioning. Like, I came to apply for jobs, and I'm not being whiny, I'm just being realistic that what are you done? Like, your
it's about results.
Reference list, like, doesn't matter. Like, the employee doesn't know where you're working back home. So it's like, what's your experience here? And you're like, but I just arrived. Like, doesn't matter. Like, what do you do? How do I know that you're good at?
And I don't even speak English, barely, kind of.
They question your identity, and you question in your own. Like, wait a minute, everything that I just lived in, that was 23. I was 22, 23. You kind of questioning your so my life before 23 was like nothing, and literally it's nothing because you've done nothing here, so it doesn't count. And you redefine that, like, who am I now? How can I introduce myself? Now I have this accent, now I have this degree that I cannot pursue fully, now I have this number, digits, I'm alien. Like, that's just like you feel. I would say, if you doesn't go in the route of self-sabotage, self-worth, and literally of questioning your abilities and skills from feeling just literally nothing, I would say a lot of people just can go easily depressed, or come pack and backpack and go home, and parents say, oh honey, you should go home, we're waiting for you. And that's that breakthrough point for many people that I've been observing and watching.
Well, I have to imagine that they all want that to happen. I have to imagine that your haters are big back home. Like, I'm sure they all want you to fail and come back, because here they're literally living in the factory life for 30 to 40 years. They're going for certainty. They're wearing survivorship. We're planning for this rainy day. It's here every day. And they wear it every single day with pride. And otherwise, if they didn't have pride about it, they'd have to leave. They'd have to go out and pursue and do what you're doing. I have to imagine that in doing that, stepping out in, courage to leave, I mean, in a tremendous way, that it makes a lot of people back home jealous. Does it?
It's actually inspired them, but they cannot do much about it, because it's never about me. It's never about, oh, good for her, she made that jump. It's more about pointing back to them that I didn't. That's what feels sucks, but people just don't want to admit that. So it's easy to say, well, she probably get there because XYZ. It is a comfort zone. Clarity, comfort zone, those are like the points for people to break through. And that's why I'm talking to my clients. Nobody want to go and live in those uncomfortable zones. There is no fun at all. There's a lot of things that you have to admit about yourself, and some of them are not pretty one, because we made believe about that. So but again, those are made up beliefs, and I always strive for this essential base where I come from with nothing. And that's you just relying on the best what you know, your talents, your skills, your dream, your potential, your background, your blueprint. And that's when my dad said, I remember when I packed in that 25-pound suitcase and reflecting on my dad's words back again, I had everything I need. I work hard to get stuff that I really didn't need, and they even didn't fit in my suitcase. But I was scared leaving, but I was happy. I was happy because I wasn't attached to things. I had everything I need, what mattered the most for me. And the less I had, the happier I was with my skills and my experience I gained growing up. So when coming to US, following my passion to serve people, that was the second time when I was coming through the University of Maine, pursuing my international social work. So I find this perfect, no, I didn't find this perfect American dream story, because I did American dream story for me started working at Arby's making chicken sandwiches with my master's degree.
But
That was
the roads are paved in gold, you know? I mean, the roads are
yes.
paved
Oh
in gold.
yeah. Everyone is just like in that movie, Sex and the City in New York. Everyone is drinking Cosmopolitan and driving Cadillacs. So no, it was Arby's, and it was pretty much my learning experience, how to interact, how work with the different employers. And
I have to imagine the culture shock is just amazing, especially going to Arby's. Arby's just must have been such the culture shock for you. That must have been.
I mean, I was so honored and proud that I have the job there, and it was like something new. And you watch growing up, you go to McDonald's, and Arby's wasn't there back home, but it was that fast food, typical American cliche of lifestyle. I enjoy. I didn't had really much expectations, but I did saw the culture with access, definitely, with more stuff that people need. I saw this. My coworkers would have like cupboards full of food, several pair of shoes, jeans, gear, more cars, more tools, more boxes. And I also saw the stress to worry and stress to work so hard, because I do believe the country is full of like hardworking people who are working 50, 60 hours a week, being burnout to fill that void, because we need more. There's going to be another sale, another something that will pop up in your mailbox because you need to buy that. Because by collecting things and like expectations of others, like the society roles that we have to play, and listening those self-sabotaging voices, sooner or later we will run out of those suitcase storage and spaces, so which end up cluttering us, and we end up serving them, not otherwise. And the outcome of this mind cycle of never enough is, yeah, we are working hard to fulfill, to buy things versus to live life and to experience life. But there is always more money and more work and never enough, because I do believe we will never get enough of things we don't need.
I
And
love that. Everybody needs to hear that message, Yana. Everyone out there needs to hear that, hey, you could be so much more with so much less. And I say that as a total hypocrite. Like I'm a terrible hypocrite to say it, to listen to it and say it sounds so good. I have 3 lightsabers. I have 3. Isn't one good enough? You know what I mean? But I mean, it's just like, but I feel you on just the simplicity of it. You stress yourself out because you want all of these things. You want to be impressive. You feel that you have to, you have this, fear of missing out, or fear of, not living up to what society thinks that you should be. And I guess,
because we give attachment to people and very rarely to things, because we are often confused what truly make our life successful, happy, fulfilled, and purposeful. A lot of people don't know, like they just don't, because why? Because it's so targeted, like from, I don't know, going to work, from work, podcasts, radios, TV station, advertisement, shops, everything is just telling you like, you got to become like that, you got to have it. And you driving home and thinking like, oh man, how can I be like that celebrity? Like, how can I have that lifestyle? That means that I don't have it. Then it means I'm not that's at that level. That means I'm not that. So we diminish in ourselves without even like knowing, being recognized. Like, what are we doing? Like, we just have this self-talk that for our brain, it translates like, well, you suck. There is nothing you accomplished in life. So then you just drive home on that, whatever brand of car you have, which is like, some people doesn't even have a car.
Which is not a Cadillac. And you're not going home having a
it's just something like less of, I don't know, less for 20, 30 grand that people might not even make in a whole entire life, somewhere in Africa or somewhere else, or in Asia. And you just, after watching how much happiness people would have there by having like piece of bread and just like clothes, you kind of like reevaluate your life. Like, man, I'm like so fortunate. I'm so happy. I'm so um, humble, and I'm so wealthy beyond the mean that some people might not even have for whole entire life.
I have to imagine. I want to bring us back to just the airplane coming
Mm,
over when you didn't have the clarity and you were
mhm,
feeling, that sense of, I would argue, ultimate actual freedom, because you
mhm,
are free of your past life, you're free of a future life,
mhm,
you're 100%, you're like floating in freedom.
mhm.
And but you lack clarity, you lack a strategy, and you lack an action plan.
Yeah.
Did it happen right then and there on the airplane, or was it a process?
It was a process because I didn't know where am I gonna end up to, and I didn't know what would be my job. How will I be adapting in that culture? And it was a process because you start comparing yourself. It was a process because you're adapting and you might not know what to expect. It was questioning your own financial stability, and you question, how am I coming back home in several months? So that was like first time when you kind of questioning what are your skills, what your capabilities are. And you don't belong because you foreigner, and that's related to anywhere. Like, you start new relationship, you are feel foreigner because you don't know the person. You start a new job, you're not walking into the first day at the job and you like kick in the door and you pretend you CEO. No, you shy, you embarrassed, you questioning, you not certain, you not confident. And you understand it's not going to happen overnight. Like, you will end up learning the strategy and action plan and techniques, but right now you feel diminished, you feel uncertain and
And you stick out
fearful.
like an alien.
Fearful, yeah. If you have an alien costume, you can definitely go through front door reception desk and say, yeah.
What was in your 25-pound suitcase?
Good question. Necessities to survive in Minnesota. Sweater, Timberland boots, fur coat, toothbrush, some jeans and clothes, and pajamas.
I
I
mean, that's
think
got to be it. Other
I
than
think
maybe like toothpaste and mouthwash or something like
Yeah,
that. I mean,
which is I'm like questioning. I'm like, why do you unpack like more stuff? Because I can just like always buy stuff. Because I there is clothes you can buy somewhere.
you could
Like,
buy toothbrushes here, right?
I
Exactly.
felt like I don't even need that stuff. There was access. That was like in my mind, there was access of stuff that I don't even need to buy, pack because I can buy. So even in that moment, I realized I took too much stuff in my life. That was how
Wow.
crazy I felt. And yeah, laptop and extension cords and camera and memory cards, so I can dump all my pictures there and my document paperwork. So minimize the paperwork so I'm not dragging the folders, because
Right.
it's lovely bureaucratic process. You do need a lot of paperwork to prove your identity. So
Mhm.
you scan and you put them on USB flash card, something like that.
That's got to, yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you have to have certain things, but it's funny, even with 25 pounds, you felt like you brought too much. W- could you name the 30 countries that you visited in your
Oh my
college
God,
years?
that's a lot. No, I can't go on every single of them.
I will count them out.
You
Could
have
you do it? Do you think, I mean, you have to remember, my goodness,
That's
did
a
you
lot of
just
them.
pass
I
through?
would forget probably some of them.
Like, did you just pass through, or did you like actually go and like experience fully what the culture was and like feel what these
Some of
countries?
them experience, some of them I stay for a few days, some of them I stay longer, some of them shorter. But I do know it will be easy to maybe start with continents. I never visit North Pole, the Antarctica. So
Okay.
that's continent off my next on my to-do list, on my bucket list.
Okay.
South America was too far. So at that young age, I would just travel alone. So I didn't go to South America. Australia, that's been always dream of mine to go and see. Was so three. Otherwise, I went to North America, Europe, Africa, Asia. Am I missing? There's 7 continents.
Yeah, South America, Australia. Is Australia a continent? Yeah, it is. Right. I feel like, hey, I should
Yeah.
be telling you, or you should be telling me the answers to where actually you are the 30 country person. You should be telling me what the
Yeah, I should know that, but no, those are continents that are on my bucket list. So I
what were
still
the
places
what are
to
the
go.
most what were the most like interesting places that you visited? You mentioned Shanghai. I have to imagine that was a pretty interesting place. Why out of all the places you mentioned that was that the
It was
first thing you
because of the
mentioned?
longest flight. It was too far
Okay.
to fly. Same with Thailand. It's like 10 to 11 hours. That's why it would be fun to experience Australia, 24-hour flight. Um, Fun places to go. I would say last year, the country that stole my heart was particularly town was Venice. That was Italy. I loved that. It was just something surreal to understand that you literally have to be on the water. Anything you want, like taxi, water, bus, water, everything. Just you have to transportation has to be happening on water.
What an
Uh,
adventure. I mean, what a
yeah,
cultural difference.
and then I did had a chance to live in Barcelona for a while when I went to Spanish school, and Spain is very close to my heart because very similar overlapping overclashing with Ukrainian culture. I just love everything about it. But out of the exotics one, the Thailand was extremely contrasty for what I know, religions wise, cultural wise, and um, having a chance to eat fried and boiled snake like cobra, that was the new experience. Or drinking blood because it's good for your hemoglobin. I think I pronounced that right.
Hemoglobin.
Yes, it's good for your the blood renewal cells.
Okay.
Cobra's raw blood.
And I'm sure, is that something where it's just like, hey, we're eating cobra tonight, and like everybody's eating it around you, and you're kind of just like, well, all right, I guess I'm eating this.
Yeah, no, I feel like people who is right now listening us, like Greenpeace representatives,
I
probably
know,
just
right?
loving it.
They're not listening. They're not
Loving
listening.
it. Yeah. No, it's unfortunately or fortunately, and out of respect, that's their culture. So
Right.
I wouldn't come and tell into Palestine, telling them that no, I'm not wearing this cover on my head.
Right.
Like, yes, of course I would. Same like I would eat the cobra, and I would probably in Israel, I would be respecting some things. So you are coming into the country with the respect of what they already established, and that would be same like in Algeria, in Sahara Desert. I would have to be mindful about my behavior and understand and not make extra weird movements or gestures that might be inappropriate and offensive, like in Tunisia. And being mindful about me being a female as well, and being mindful in India to be blonde. So, and make
Right.
sure that people just have different experience with you as well, just like you have experience with them. Yeah, but it's not done yet. There's 195 countries, so there's a places still to go, Jimmy, and I will keep you updated and posted on my complete journey.
Well, you mentioned a ton of countries. What would be next? What would you want to go? I mean, you mentioned Australia, a ton of places. What would you want to go first? Would you want to go to South America? Would you want to go to, or do a 24-hour flight and go to like Australia or something?
I would say Bali was always back on my mind for a long time, and I do feel like it would be a special journey for me, and I feel like I need to be a specific transition in my life in order for me to fully embrace and experience Bali, Indonesia.
Sure.
So
Okay. Indonesia.
uh,
Okay. Why,
yeah,
why there out of all the, I mean, anywhere in the world, you'd say Bali. Why Bali?
I heard, I've read, I've seen, and so a lot of my friends would describe that place as a spiritual place, very healing place that, of course, full of exotics, and also maybe because I'm in Minnesota, it's warm and tropical. it just something about the culture and the meaning, and there's a great philosophy and beliefs, and the meaning of like why we are people, why we arrived on this planet. There's a lot of spiritual books and stories and tales that would be really cool to learn.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it'd be cool to, I'm with you. I mean, it would be really neat to just experience that, kind of like you were mentioning, just in the cultures, like, hey, you're kind of expected to eat the cobra. What would you be expected to do there? And then in Minnesota, Duluth, Minnesota, you expected to have, you know, a burger and a beer, and, you know, you better, and maybe a Bloody Mary with a chaser, you know, and that's kind of the expected thing too. Why Duluth, Minnesota? You've gone all over these places.
Yeah.
You faced, you know, socialism and communism, where you're forced to conform, where you're just
in capitalism now.
You know, but like, look, you're totally like held back. You're let go. Duluth, Minnesota.
There's something about Duluth. Yeah, I'm questioning myself too. Why Duluth? Still questioning. No, just kidding. The journey started when I came back from East Coast. And I just couldn't embrace the fact that all that education that I invested, 6 years of psychology degree in my master's year, I have to make chicken sandwiches in Arby's. I'm like, no, I guess I need to get a job, something that I can pursue and follow my degree. And I came back home and applied. I found this internship through University of Maine, social work. I applied for this amazing opportunity for psychologists, counselors, psychologists, social workers, therapists. And I went through the interview process, and they pretty much sent me invitation, and off 4 months later from Virginia, I was on the plane again. And I arrived in May. I arrived to Boston. They picked me up, and it was other 16 students, so professionals in this psychology field, were there from every single country. And we were meant to spend 2 orientation weeks before we get assigned where we're going. And there was four directions. It would be the Massachusetts, New York, Washington, D.C., or Minnesota. So those were the places you go. And I was just recently, like 4 months earlier, I spent majority of my time on East Coast. So it would make sense to go back and become familiar and comfortable. No, they decided that I had enough practical knowledge and experience with kids during my college years. I would be part of like group coachings and group therapy and group coaching with kids. And they thought the child psychology, this is something that I would be a great fit. And they would be just assign me with 3 other students from Portugal, Netherlands, and Italy for me to shift and transfer me to Duluth, Minnesota for 2 years. And that was pretty much not my choice. And I did ask them, like, where is that? And they only said it's somewhere up north. That's as far as they knew. And I'm like, okay, up north, then here I am going up north. Never been there, I said. And I remember arriving, it was a Super Bowl day on February 5th. It was so cold. Apparently it was a snowstorm before. So it was like 12 inches of snow. We were driving from Minneapolis airport to Duluth, and we didn't have that house yet. The university didn't rent for us, so we would stay in the hotel. And I remember driving through the snowstorm. It's like unending Highway 35. It's like just you going in the middle of nowhere. And we arrived in Duluth, and in the morning it was dark in night. And in the morning, I remember opening my curtains and windows, and the hotel was right on the edge of Lake Superior. And looking out of the window, and it's just like unending. It's like Russian tundra. There is like no way. It's just like icy lake.
What year was this?
2011.
2011. So, okay, I'm just wondering. I'm just thinking, like, was it like a really cold year that year where like
I
was
have
all of
no
like
idea. It was cold
Shakespeare?
for me for sure because I just did not expect this is going to be my life for next 18 months
Wow.
signing contract, and the only way I can just quit and never go through the program, or I can stay and this is going to be my new normal. And it was just that realization of like there is no way back. I was just embracing. Luckily for me, I was in America 4 months earlier, experiencing some predictability of like what the life looked like. My other three roommates, they had no clue what they signed up themselves for. That's why they pretty much all quit. And
Oh my goodness.
that was a fun time that Duluth was.
They all quit. So basically, you're put in charge of all these people, and then they all just, nah, I can't do this. Like they really did. Did they go back to their home countries or
Yeah,
their?
yeah. You not pursuing with that, so you kind of discontinued with the program, and I stayed the single one out of four to finish that 18-month program.
Wow, incredible. So after that, where did you go from there? And I have to ask too. I know that you're a ballerina of sorts, or like you're in ballet. Was this also a part? Like I I don't know. Am I a dance fan? Is that a thing? I don't know, but like I guess I can appreciate
Nothing
the.
wrong with that. Be a dance fan.
Well, no, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, so you think you can dance? I love that show.
Oh,
Um, but look, it requires an intense amount of discipline and practice, and like you look like a ballerina, you talk like a ballerina. I don't know why you kind of just like wear that. What were you always involved in that, and how do you think that's played a role in your life?
yeah. So I did debate it between these two careers to go into the dance academy or to pursue my psychology degree. And that was my teen years when I have like the reality was harsh. Like, okay, I don't even know who I am, and now I have to choose something that I'm gonna be doing for the next 5-6 years, and then it's gonna be my career. Reason why I was passionate about it because I was such an active child, and my parents, I feel like I was playing for a city, for a town, and then supposed to represent the capital for the basketball team. But I also was doing the dancing as well, and I was doing sports, so I was like extremely active during my school years. But the dance was always number one, and that started at the age of 5 when my parents signed me up for this ballet school, and I started pursuing that for, let's see, till today's day. I mean, it's like 27 years of like professional dancing career, and it's morphed into from classic ballet into the jazz, into the contemporary, into the hip hop, into later ballroom, and now I'm just staying. So it's become not only hobby, it's become a lifestyle. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
right now it's definitely is my this self-discipline survivorship skill that engraved in me, that I cannot imagine myself not showing up for my business without not being self-disciplined, without not being there for people, knowing how hard it is and understanding their journey because I've been there. And yeah, it is started with at the young age when you have to learn a lot, how to perform, how to be number one, how to work harder, how is it to jump higher. And when it's so high and it's still not enough, then you learn a lot about competition, and then you learn a lot about comparison, and it comes with the price of self-worth and self-esteem. And you just bringing this through all the dancing journey. And ballet itself is the philosophy is extremely beautiful. It is gracious. It is unique and airy and free. However, there is nothing that would happen without blisters and bloody feet and sores and injuries and replacements of parts of your body. It's pretty. It's a tough, just like any job, just like any hobby. If you take it to the extreme, you're paying the price for
right.
being the best, for being number one. And it definitely helps me incorporate that into storytelling, because in dancing, we cannot, as a dancers, speak up or talk. The only body can do the talking, and how expressive you are. Like, and I learned at a young age, if you do not express yourself, you don't impress. And the audience who were looking at me, they're like, okay, their eyes, the judge's eyes, the audience eye will be shifted to someone else. So you done in their world. And to hold that attention, it takes practice and repetition and frustration and disappointment. So, yeah.
I have to imagine. So, very cool. Is there anything that you would add to your story, leading from Ukraine to Duluth?
Often my job makes me reflect on that a lot, Jimmy, on this question, because when I work with people in my business, like, this is who they gotta get. They get me, period. There's no elaborate team behind me that they will be dealing with. It would be my story, my experience. And as a coach, you only can take your clients as far as you willing to go. So my constant improvement is relying on my results of my clients. Like, I cannot coach someone who is at the different level of their journey. Not that I'm projecting, like when I show up for a session, I know nothing. I do not assume or project or make some sort of a conclusion about it. However, if I know what it takes to bring that level of forgiveness, if I know how to grieve about something in my life, if I know how to lose identity, if I know how to not generating income, if I know how to start the business and pretty much trying to accomplish that level of success, like, I do know that part. So I need to experience that in order for my clients to bring to that level, and show them and explain that it's okay to be absolutely right now heartbroken, not knowing where you're going with that. It's normal, because this is a part of the transition. So, answering your question, I wish to say yes, I would change here, there, and there, but it wouldn't be my story. It wouldn't be as tangible, as powerful. And I am enjoying this because it's some sort of a mystery. It's like, it's fun thing to go for a ride, to experience the life, and just know what else can you do? Because every time I'm reflecting back and go deep into that pot or Pandora box of stories, I'm like, man, there was so much there. How did I miss that? How did I miss that airport waving my mom and like being on the plane? And like literally recently discovered that story. And I bet there's so much more that I didn't go into.
Well,
And
I mean, but you've gone into, honestly, I feel like I'm there with you as you're telling the story, and feeling the feelings that you felt of complete uncertainty. It's like it's freedom yet chained. It's like, it's a different type of feeling. I loved how you described it. And I know that there are people that will listen to this, and maybe there's lots of people, maybe there's just one person, but that might go through this, or has gone through this, or maybe is going through it. And actually that's a great segue into some questions that I like to ask everybody. So I'm going to run through these. So first one is, do you feel like you ever had a big break?
like a breakthrough or break in life.
It can be whatever you want, but I guess the context of the question is really like, hey, did you ever like score big? Was there just a defining moment where you just absolutely made it? What was like a big defining break for you?
I really want to say it was starting my business, because I did walk away from high paycheck and director operations role position, and I would just sign the resignation letter and leave that day, and with nothing to start with, meaning there's no like startup income of become a coach, or like starting your business and like work for the company or have a partner, like literally nothing, just an idea and passion that this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I want to do. And this is what I've been betraying myself not doing. And right now is an opportunity. But I have no idea how I'm going to be doing, because I'm a first generation entrepreneur. My both parents come from educational background. They both teachers. They both were in college we just discovered for how many years. So how do you start the business when you don't have a blueprint of it? And you just have this passion of this is what you meant to be, to help people, to serve people, and to make their dreams come true, and let them finally live their life on their own and thrive. So that was the moment when I could so easily and I was for 4.5 years living in that comfort zone of stability, because it's a steady paycheck. That's what you do. And that's how I was raised. You don't walk away from stability, even if that stability is 80 hours a week. Even that stability, you work till 3 a.m. because it was the business that was requiring me to work those long hours. So I felt I was just ready, and I don't know where it's come from, but people just don't walk away. At least it's what I hear from the middle class, like in America. Like, you don't walk away from significant salary in director operation position if you want to start your business. Like, that's not the way. But that's what I felt like entrepreneur was just raving in me and cheering for me. And I just decide to go on that journey, to go for that ride, and figure it out on my own. If I need to start learning how to become an accountant, marketing developer, digital creative designer, event planner for my keynote speaking engagements, if I need to be collaborator, podcast creator, blog writer, author, and so much more, then so be it.
You're going to make it happen. You're going to get it done. I love how your perspective of this is. I ask you, do you ever feel like you have a big break? And your perspective of that is that you came from this background of being held back so much and conforming, that your biggest break is the ability to pursue your own dreams and your own passions by completely letting loose and doing your own thing with nobody telling you can't do it. And in a lot of ways, you probably could argue and make a good argument for, like, you don't deserve it. You didn't do anything special for it. And it did or didn't, there's that doubt, there's that fear, but ultimately I love it. The big break is just the let loose, the individualism, and
live your dream and just follow your passion, follow your dream. Yeah.
That's beautiful. All right. Yana, was there ever a time that you felt like giving up?
Makes me think. I couldn't come up with anything, because there was nothing that was like so significant. It was just like this moments maybe of like being exhausted, not knowing what to do, no clarity, like doubting myself. But give up, it was just like not what I raised, I guess. That's what never been an option for me. And that's like maybe a curse, or maybe some sort of a benefit for my journey. No, I would always find the reason, like, what's there for me then? If this is the moment of giving up, then what I have left? Because there's no such thing. There is nothing there for me, like absolutely none. Every single fail, there's always going to be a lesson. Every single jerk person in your life, always going to be a teacher. And always going into that mindset, just I never felt like, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm competitive. I'm like a type D, and I'm like, or A person, whatever the system, DISC or assessment I went through all of them due to when you practice something, you have to try it on yourself. So I just wouldn't imagine for me to give up to anything. And I remember running like 2 years, the Grandma's Marathon. People train for years, right? That's like normal people do. Like
Right.
they train, they practice. Well, some people like the alien with the alien brain,
Right.
they do this within 3 days. So that's what like not
Sure. Why not? Three
experienced,
days.
not
Yeah.
runner. Yeah, there's like grandma's marathon. Like so I have, let's see, what I have 3 days. Okay, I'm gonna go for it. 40, it was 14 miles run, half marathon, I should say, not full one. And I remember, of course, I would blow up my knee on the day 3, and that would be like the end of my practice week before my run. And I just couldn't imagine not like give up on my ticket, entry ticket, and not get my number. And I would just, I don't know, buckled up with, I would ask my chiropractor to give me some stretching bands and rub my knee, and came up with some sort of a compress a situation so I can finish. And I did. And I was like, first 13 miles was great
And it was a
until
20, so it was a full marathon. You did 26,
it was half
okay.
14 miles. So
Okay.
first 13 miles was great. And the
Yeah.
last mile, when I was finishing, I started feeling like that excruciating pain that I'm like, I can't, like, I
Yeah.
would be running the last mile through the pain because I need to finish. And I felt there's no way, like I'm at the finish, like who's giving, like there was
Right.
not even an option. So when you don't have that option, your brain doesn't have anything to tap into.
Right. I love it. I love how you answer this question because it's just like, it's so not an option. It's just so not even,
I don't know.
you're just pointed a complete opposite direction from a perspective, from mentality, from a, just a laser focus results right now mentality. You can't even possibly have time to think about, I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to give up. I really love that. That's just so real and authentic. That's totally you, Yana. I mean, it really is like, no, what do you mean give up? Of course not. I really do. I love that. That's totally you. Another question we ask is, and you kind of answered it before, is if you were to do it all over again, what would you change?
Oh, I love this question because I love this question because I ask my client this question, and it's always different respond. I would go for it. I wouldn't think twice. I wouldn't procrastinate. I wouldn't question. And the reason why it's this one important for me, because I tend to be perfectionist, like, and that's tapping on my shoulder of my like deep personality. Like you got to be the best or nothing. So I would say go for it and do things and not think twice. And this year I've been living this resolution, messy versus perfect. And there's so much freedom in being messy. There's so much freedom to messed up things, and there's so much freedom to randomly email and collaborate with people that you dare to ever send that email. And I remember walking on the fire at the Tony Robbins event last year in Los Angeles. I would just like, okay, if I'm gonna burn my feet, can burn my feet. Like I would just go with that analytical explanation of it, but I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it. And definitely the atmosphere was supporting it, and my mindset was there. But you go for it, and you just
You still have to do it.
You just trick your brain again that you can walk on fire in those hot coals. And yeah, I would say just go for it without even turning back. And there's so many things I could boldly jump on it, but because that mindset, like, who do you think you are, or this is not where you come from, or this is not within your capacity, that would just hold me back. And if I would look closer in those beliefs and like get to know them, like that's complete bullshit. There is no such thing that I would mean I'm not, like, yeah, I am. It's just not in that moment. It would be above my desire to do that. But I will just go for so many things and would not think twice.
God, I love that. That's so cool. You're in love with the process, is kind of more so what that is. And that's chasing after something that you've never had, but without fear. And I mean, that's just such great advice, especially, I mean, it's surprising that you say that truly, because what would you change? You would go for it more. You literally got a one-way ticket from Ukraine to the United States. You know,
Yeah.
there's no higher level of going for it than that. You know,
Yeah.
in my eyes, that's such a enormous leap of I'm going for it, and you would
Yeah.
go for it more. I love it.
The sky
So,
is the limit.
so this next question, it's our final question. I like to set it up with it to the little girl in Ukraine, you know, that speaks, you know, Ukrainian and Russian and everything else around the area, to, you know, the person that's, you know, a starting out ballerina, to the a person that's got their one-way ticket, you know, to come to America, to go to wherever it is. What advice would you give to someone looking to get it done?
That's a big one, and I can expand, but
Do
I
it.
love simplicity. So I'll go for the simple, most understanding, I guess, answer with, I would just say, with no hesitation. Right now, for people, for that young girl, for people who are listening to us, the time may be something we did not dream of, or afraid to dream, or not allowed to dream. Every day, we have a choice. We have a choice to put on our best costume and put on the best show, tap into our that voice within us, that energy that hiding there, and inspired others to make someone else's smile, to influence somebody with your story, with your action steps, and encourage others by your bravery, by standing up for your own dreams, and go for it. And besides go for it, literally get it done, to make some action steps, commit to those action steps, and just literally get it done.
I love it. And I mean, you said the name of the podcast twice. So, I mean, that, you know, makes me smile for sure. I love that though. I mean, it's like, you really do. You just got to go for it. And if you were to dig a little bit deeper into it, I know we're kind of wrapping up the end of it, but how would you expand on it?
Well, because it's such a lucrative process, like to give advice to someone, because we don't know what we don't know, and every single story is so different. And the advice would be unique to the situation. But in the end of the day, if we do not follow and live our dreams, like, what's the point of living without a purpose? What's the point of not making the world in a better place? Like, this is literally all we have. This time, which is 24 hours, they're going to be done. Like right now, maybe minute ago, that moment of me and you being on this podcast, and this listener who's driving in your car, sitting and watching this, or scrolling through social media, like, that minute is gone forever. So if you leave that moment learning something, living life, talking to someone, loving someone, helping to somebody, that was that moment that you make this world in a better place with that just minute. And then we also have one life, and we do also have this one planet. It's like, why not believing that you're such a miracle? You were born out of, I don't know, million hundreds of sperm choices. You were the only one out of the million hundred
Right.
stars in the sky. It was just this planet.
Right.
And you so fortunate, and you so magical wherever you are, that why don't you think it's not a miracle to live every day and feel so special, so abundant, with no more and much, and just embrace that this is better, this is the best. Like, what if you live your best life right now? I bet it would be a damn great day to wake up for.
Yana, that's fire. That's fire. That's it. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I really love that. Yeah, I could talk to you for probably another couple hours. My goodness. But I do want to wrap it up on that. That's just a great way to end. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. If you've watched us on the video, great. If you're listening to us on the podcast, awesome. And I want to especially thank Yana for joining us. Yana, if anyone would like to connect with you, what would be the best way to connect with Yana?
Super simple. You can find me pretty much anywhere in the social media world. And it would be my first and last name. YanaStockman.com would be my website. You can connect with me professional on LinkedIn. It's Yana Stockman. You can find me on my Instagram. It's Yana Stockman Life Coach. You can find me on Facebook as Yana Stockman Transition Life Coach. And you can find me and listen my podcast. It's Guidance to Personal Success with Yana Stockman. And that's me.
That's
All.
awesome. We'll have a link in the podcast. So that's beautiful. Thank you, Yana. And all right, this has been the Get It Done podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you want to support the show, please tell a friend. That'd be awesome of you. Write us a 5-star review. Hit that subscribe button. All those things really help us in getting our word out. Once again, I'm Jimmy Ryan. Thank you again for listening. Many more stories on the way. Thanks, Yana.
Thank you, Ryan. That was great. Thank you, Jimmy.